That's right, I have a rock. What are you going to do about it? Hey there, kiddos, and welcome back to the channel. I'm Uncle Frank, and that you are having a great day. And in today's video, we are going to sit back, relax, and have a nice, cozy conversation about cycles. You see, in the world of trading card, collectibles, finance, etc., there are a lot of cycles that go into play when it comes to determining the current health of the market, a given day's uh, volume of sales, price of a certain item, etc. There's a lot of things that go into consideration and a lot of things that have an effect on your bottom line. And you'd be surprised to learn that there's actually quite a few cycles to account for when it comes to TCG finance. Now, of course, everyone knows about the bull and bear market cycles, when a lot of people are enthusiastic about a given item or collectible, and there's a lot of hype and a lot of desire to buy in before it's too expensive, and a lot of confidence that what you're buying today will be worth more tomorrow. That's a pretty bullish market. And that cycle can last a while. Nobody can predict when a bull market will start. Nobody can predict when a bull market will end. The same thing holds true for the opposite, the bear market, when the confidence in a given item is low, when there's not a whole lot of demand for a collectible, when there's people out there who would rather just kind of not have to deal with it in general. They bought it a few months ago, now they're kind of regretting it. They want to sell it, and they'll take a loss just to get some cash flow. That causes a bear market. And just like a bull market, nobody can really predict when one will start or when it will end. And believe it or not, those cycles, the bear and bull cycle, they can be at play at the same time in a macrocosm and microcosm. Look at the overall TCG marketplace as it is right now. Look at Magic, Lorcana, Pokemon, Flesh and Blood. For the majority of TCGs, we are in a historically booming bull market with everybody wanting to buy in on everything just to try and either A, secure their long-term investments, or B, make a solid flip in the short term. But that's not exactly universal. Look at Yu-Gi-Oh! Right now, which is it's experiencing one of its worst bear markets ever. As I don't want to be the bearer of bad news here, kiddos, but Yu-Gi-Oh! Is historically bearish right now. There's not a lot of confidence in the game, not a lot of faith in Konami's reprint policies, not a lot of people thinking that Yu-Gi-Oh! Has the healthiest outlook right now, to say the least. And that's a good example of a bear market within a bull market, because yeah, TCGs as a whole are pretty bullish right now, but Yu-Gi-Oh! Is not. Another kind of cycle to keep track of is one that you can actually predict fairly well. It's the seasonal cycle of the year. And unlike a bear or bull market, we know exactly when these things happen. Every single year has the 4 seasons. And 2 of them in particular have a pretty strong impact on your sales if you're a seller, or in some cases, the price of items if you're just a buyer. You see, towards the summer months, June, July, August especially, people are, in theory, out and about more. They're going outside, they're hanging out with friends, they're going on vacations and trips, and they're not really focusing a whole lot of effort on their indoor activities. They're not really putting a lot of money towards collectibles. So a lot of sellers, a lot of investors and stores, etc., they know, and they've gotten used to the fact that towards the summer months, things tend to die down. Not all the time. I know it's not a universal thing, but for the most part, summer means cooling off of the market, less people buying your items, expecting less revenue to come through your store in general, and most stores tend to prepare for that once they've been in the game for more than a few years. Conversely, winter months, especially around the holiday season, people are getting their Christmas gifts ready for everybody else, so they're buying more cards. Immediately after Christmas, people are spending their Christmas paychecks and their Christmas gift money. So right around December, January, February, you're seeing a lot of people starting to up their spending in the collectibles market because either they're looking for gifts for loved ones or they have received a gift of capital from loved ones. And then not long after is tax return season, and people like to spend money with their tax returns, let me tell you. So you can kind of see this ebb and flow of financials and spending just on an annual basis. And let me tell you, these things can compound like a motherfucker, okay? If we suddenly dip into a bull market at the start of summer, you can expect absolutely insane losses in revenue and spending across the board. Conversely, if there's a sudden bull market as we head into the winter, expect some incredibly nuts, like we're talking crazy spikes in price for all sorts of items. And these things, yeah, they can compound aggressively. And they can work against each other too. You know, a bull market going into summer, a bear market going into winter. Did I say that already? I might have. I meant to say bearish going into summer and bullish going into winter for that first thing. Just so you guys know what I was trying to say. You guys know what I mean, right? Another cycle to keep in mind is the average 2 to 3 year life cycle of players. Most games have this, not all, but most games have this cycle, this turnaround for their player base. A guy will get in, enjoy games for a year or two, and then dip, never ever again picking that game up. Most companies take that into account when designing their product. Magic, Pokemon especially, designed their rotation in theory around that 2 to 3 year average life cycle for a player, giving the newer players something refreshing to hop in on with standard for Magic in theory. I know they changed it. I know that standard was recently changed to a 3-year rather than 2-year cycle for the sets. But this 2 to 3 year set life cycle for players also leads into the 2-ish year print cycle for a lot of sets out there on the market. You know, most sets, once they've been in season for about 1.5 to 2 years, most companies are not going to go back and print more of that product. Look at Pokemon. Look at any product older than 2 years for Pokemon. Look at Magic. Any product 2 years or older for Magic. You know, most companies are not going to go back more than a year or so to provide reprints to the market, to provide a new print wave of a very beloved product to the market. It does happen. It does happen. But for the most part, a standard print cycle is something you can account for when deciding your financials. You know, if you are debating where to park $1,000 that you want to put into long-term holdings, something to consider is, hey, you know, this set here is brand new. It just got released this month. It's probably going to get printed for a while versus this other set that's around the same cost, and it's been out for 2 years. Which one do you think is better to park your money into for the short and potentially long term? Well, it's up to you, obviously, but I personally would choose the item that is less likely to get reprinted in the short term. And all of these things and more, there are other cycles to account for, especially if you're insane. You might count the cycle of the stars and the moon and the sky and all that kind of crap, but a lot of these things can converge and have interesting effects on your financials, not just as a collector, investor, store, etc., but for the entire hobby as a whole. You can see that bear and bull markets coinciding with set releases can lead to drastic price jumps in either direction, which can accentuate or amplify market sentiment. You know, it's been said before on this channel and other channels on YouTube that confidence is what most companies try to sell to their average customers, not the product itself. Because if you're confident in a product, then there's a lot less apprehension when it comes to buying the product, I suppose is a very easy thing to understand for most people. And when a market cycle coincides with an annual cycle, or a market cycle coincides with a really good print run coming to an end, it can lead to some people making very smart decisions months in advance about where to park their money and where to let go of some products they've been holding on to. You know, if you're anticipating, a good example, okay? If you have a product that you've been sitting on for 4 years, okay, and just a month or two ago, Pokemon has started its bull market once again, and prices are starting to climb across the board, and it's December. Now might not be a bad time to put that Pokemon box you've been sitting on for a few years back onto the market. Give it a listing, see what you can get for it. Because chances are it's going to be worth a lot more today than it was just a few years ago, or even a few months ago, accounting for the market cycle. Meanwhile, if you're a Yu-Gi-Oh fan and you're looking for something to park cash into for a long time, well, you can buy a lot more boxes of the new stuff, knowing full well that A, they released in summer, and B, Yu-Gi-Oh is on a huge downward spiral. So you can get boxes for $30 a lot of the time, just because stores are trying to get rid of their inventory. So there's a lot of opportunity there, a lot of risk too, but a lot of opportunity to just park money for the long term. And I know that those are very simple examples. I'm not a very smart person. I don't know how to best get my point across. But if you are a smart person, you can look at the various cycles going on in the hobby today and use those to help you inform your decisions. It's never good to use just one data point to make your entire financial plan, but it's a data point that can help. And that's really all I wanted to talk about today. So if you enjoyed this video, so I don't ramble in loops for 30 hours again, if you enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe, leave a comment down below to let me know what you thought of this video. And as always, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.